Hello and welcome to the Papyrus TV Africa News Update. I am Christiana Babayo, but before we begin, the headlines. Deputy Speaker says constitutional review will prioritize national interest issues. Protesting contractors block National Assembly gates, access disrupted. Senate to brief executive on remarks made by former US President. And now the news in full. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, has stated that the ongoing constitution review by the 10th Assembly will focus on key national interest areas, including local government autonomy, women's political participation, judicial reform, and citizenship provisions. Kalu explained that the review process would cover 13 broad thematic areas and 86 constitutional provisions. The National Assembly, he said, aims to strengthen governance, promote inclusiveness, and address long-standing structural imbalances within the Federation. He added that the legislature is working to ensure that public opinion guides the process through hearings and consultations across the 6 geopolitical zones. This, he noted, would allow the review to reflect the collective aspirations of over 250 million Nigerians. According to him, the legislature is committed to reinforcing the foundation of Nigeria's democracy through laws that promote accountability, transparency, and public confidence. He also stressed that the reforms will address misconceptions about the roles of lawmakers, particularly in relation to local governance issues that fall outside federal legislative responsibility. The Deputy Speaker also revealed that the review would explore new measures to enhance leadership, improve electoral processes, and strengthen state institutions. The review committees of both the Senate and the House are expected to collaborate to harmonize proposals before the final presentation. Contractors demanding payment for works executed under the 2024 budget blocked the main gates of the National Assembly complex on Tuesday, November 4th, causing severe disruption to business at the legislature and forcing staff and visitors to wait outside as security operatives struggled to restore order. Eyewitnesses said the contractors converged on the complex early in the morning, forming human barricades and preventing vehicle movement. The blockade came amid growing anger among indigenous contractors who say the federal government has failed to honor certificates and pay for completed projects. Inside the assembly, lawmakers held marathon closed-door sessions to consider the fallout. The protests followed repeated appeals by contractor groups and public pressure on the executive to release funds for due payments. The Senate has signaled plans to discuss recent public remarks by former U.S. President Donald Trump concerning Nigeria with the executive arm, seeking a coordinated diplomatic response, the Voice of Nigeria reports. The move follows comments in the U.S. that have generated strong reactions at home and prompted calls for clarity from Nigeria's lawmakers. Senate leaders indicated they will invite the president's representatives and relevant foreign policy officials to brief the upper chamber on the implications of the remarks for bilateral ties and national security. The planned consultations aim to ensure Nigeria's response is unified, measured, and in line with international law and diplomatic practice. Legislators stressed the need to protect national sovereignty while preserving strategic cooperation, particularly in areas of defense and counter-terrorism. The Senate has confirmed a new board for the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), a step officials say will strengthen regulatory oversight of the telecom sector as the industry navigates rapid technological change and consumer protection challenges. The confirmations followed screening hearings in which nominees outlined plans to promote competition, expand network quality, and deepen digital inclusion across the country. Senators asked nominees to prioritize action on reducing service disruption, curbing fraudulent messaging, and ensuring fair pricing while supporting rollout of broadband to underserved communities. Telecom industry stakeholders welcomed the confirmation, saying a stable regulatory board will help attract investment and support the sector's growth trajectory. The new board will face immediate tasks, including oversight of telecom licensing, implementation of consumer protection measures, and coordination with law enforcement agencies on cybercrime and network security concerns. We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, And your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue. The National Assembly has passed a bill criminalizing sex for grades in tertiary institutions and prescribing custodial sentences of up to 14 years for lecturers and staff found guilty of sexually exploiting students in exchange for academic favors. The legislation intensifies the legal framework aimed at curbing sexual harassment and abuse in campuses across the country. The bill sets out procedures for investigation, prosecution, and victim support, and mandates institutional reporting mechanisms and preventive measures, including training for staff and awareness campaigns for students. Lawmakers say the measure was long overdue, citing mounting evidence that sexual exploitation had become endemic in some institutions. Human rights groups and student associations welcomed the passage, calling for swift presidential assent and robust implementation. Universities and polytechnics will be required to set up independent panels to handle complaints and ensure due process while protecting complainants from reprisals. The House of Representatives has issued a 7-day ultimatum to the Ministers of Finance, Budget and Economic Planning and the Accountant General to settle outstanding payments to local contractors and commence implementation of the 2025 budget, warning that failure to act will invite further parliamentary sanctions. The demand followed protests that paralyzed access to the National Assembly and a motion on urgent national importance. Lawmakers say the ultimatum reflects mounting public anger over unpaid certificates and the economic harm inflicted on indigenous contractors who executed projects beyond previous budget cycles. The House instructed its leadership to monitor compliance closely and apply legislative leverage where necessary to protect citizens' economic interests. Officials in the affected ministries have given the period to provide a verified schedule of payments and to demonstrate fiscal steps to release funds. The House of Representatives have announced plans to subject President Bola Tinubu's request to raise 1.55 trillion naira to close part of the 2025 budget gap to intensive legislative scrutiny, scheduling committee hearings with the Ministries of Finance and Debt Management Office. The decision follows the customary obligation of the National Assembly to examine the terms proposed and repayment plan for any new borrowing. Parliamentary committee chairs said lawmakers will demand detailed cost-benefit analysis and assurances that borrowed funds will be channeled to productive projects with clear returns rather than recurrent expenditure. Fiscal experts have urged the House to attach robust safeguards on transparency, accountability and debt sustainability before granting approval. The committee process is expected to include public hearings where civil society, economists and civic groups can make submissions. And that brings us to the end of the news update on Papyrus TV Africa. I am Christiana Babayo. Thanks for joining us.